In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Claude Code to build real software applications. So Claude Code is a coding agent from Anthropic that we can use for engineering tasks. I've divided this video into two sections. Section 1 is a quick overview, and in Section 2, we will use Claude Code to build an application, and I'll show you my workflow. Alright, so the first is installation, and to install Claude Code, we go to the documentation, and on the overview page, you can see down here we have different options. For this video, I'll be running Claude Code from the terminal, and so I'm going to stick with the terminal option. So on the terminal, I'm using Homebrew on my MacBook, and so this was the command that I copied to install Claude Code on my machine. And one important requirement that you need to have to be able to use Claude Code is a Claude subscription. I have a Pro Claude subscription, and so I'm able to use Claude Code. All right, so to confirm that Claude has been installed on your machine, you can just go to the terminal and run this command, Claude-V. So this will give you the version of Claude that you have installed on your machine. All right, with Claude Code installed, the next thing is to create a working directory and start a new Claude section. So I'll go to the terminal, and right here in the terminal, I'll create a directory. And I'll go into that directory. Alright, so next I'll open this directory in Visual Studio Code. So I'll just go code. Alright, so I'll open the terminal. Let's go full screen. And then I'll just type Claude to start a new Claude section. There you go. So if you're running Claude for the first time, this is the screen you're going to land on. So you select the theme. So right here, I already have dark mode selected, so I'll just go with dark mode. So I'll click on enter, and so right here I get to select my account that I want to log in with. So I have a Claude account with subscription. I have a Pro subscription. You can see all that subscription types. So I have a Pro subscription, so I'm just going to go with Claude account. All right, so I authorize the sign in. Great, signing is successful. I'm signed in successfully. So let me click on enter. Click on enter to continue. Yeah, recommended settings. All right, so there you go. I have Claude Code set up and I have my section opened. So down here, you can see it's telling me there's a new Claude Code. So let's just go and upgrade. All right, so my upgrade is complete. We are now at this version. So I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code. So I'll have to restart my Claude section. So I'll just go Claude, and now we're at 224. So here we have this interface. Up here you can see I'm using Sonnet 5. I have a Claude Pro subscription. This is the working directory, and it's giving me a warning about an MCP server that needs authentication. I'll sort that out later. All right, so here we have the input section where we can type our instructions. So let's just go hello. And you can see it returns a response. All right, so in this input section, if I want to add a line break, I can just hold down Control and J. And if I want to delete a line, I can just hold down Control and U. All right, so down here, we have the permission mode, and you can see we're on manual mode right now. So for manual mode, Claude Code will ask for permission before it does anything. So to switch the mode, I can just hold down Shift and Tab. So now we're on accept edits. So on accept edits, we allow Claude Code edit files, but if it needs to run commands in the terminal, it needs approval. All right, so if I hold down Shift and Tab again, we'll go to the plan mode. And so if you start a section in plan mode, Claude Code is going to generate a plan and then ask you for approval before it continues. All right, so if I hold down Shift and Tab again, you can see we're in auto mode now. And so in auto mode, we allow Claude Code to perform any action without asking for approval. All right, that's permission mode. Over here, you can see shortcuts. So I'll just hold down Shift and question mark. So you can see all the shortcuts that we have here and that we can use with Claude Code. So you can see / here. We use that to trigger a command. And you can see all the other shortcuts here. And so I'll click on escape to close this. So over here, we have agents. So if I click on the back arrow key on my keyboard, it will open the agent view. All right, so here's my agent view. You can see my current section right there. So we use the agent view to see all the sections that you have opened. So if you have some sections that are running in the background, you can come in here and view all the sections and go into any one that you want and perform any action that you want. All right, the next is commands. And I have a few commands down here that I think you should know about, and I'll just run through them quickly. All right, so first is init. So when you run the init command, Claude Code scans your project and generates a Claude.md file that represents your project structure and conventions. And so when you start a new section, the content of your Claude.md file is loaded into the context. All right, the next command is the model command. So with the model command, I can get to switch the model. So right now I'm on Sonnet 5, which is what you see here. And so I can just use the arrow key to move down and select any other model that I want. All right, so the next is the clear command. So we use the clear command to start a new section. So say you have a long running conversation with Claude Code and you just want a new section. You can just use the clear command to start a new section. All right, next is the voice command. So we can use the voice command to toggle voice mode. With the voice command enabled, all I need to do is hold down the space bar and Claude will capture whatever I'm saying and it just transcribes everything in the input section. All right, so next is the status line command. So the status line gives us a visual feedback about our section. Let me show you. All right, so I'll select the default, pause the video here and come back when status line is set up. All right, so the status line setup is complete and you can see down here, it gives us the visual information. So it's giving us the project directory, the model, and here it's telling us we have 96% left of our contest window. And so I'm using Sonnet 5 as the model, and Sonnet 5 has a 1 million token contest window. All right, so the longer the conversation, the closer we get to the limit of our contest window. So this gives us an idea of where we are at relative to that limit. And we can either run clear, right, to just spin up a new section, or we can run another command, compact. So compact frees up context by summarizing the conversation. So let me just run it. All right, so you can see it now says we have 100% of our context left. All right, so let me clear this. All right, so the next is the MCP commands. So we use this to manage the MCP servers that we've configured for the project. So here you can see I have GitHub MCP server that I've connected, and I have some other MCP servers as well that are not connected because they need authentication. And so in the next section, I'll show you how to configure an MCP server. We'll connect to Supabase MCP server and we'll use it for our project. All right, to see other commands, you can just run help. And if you go to the commands tab, you will see all the commands that we have with Claude Code. And if you go to the custom commands tab, you can see your custom commands. So if you want to create your custom command, you just use skills. So before now, there was a different approach to creating commands, but Claude Code have decided to go with skills. And so with skills, we can create custom commands. And I'll show you how to do that next. All right, let's create a skill, a hook, and a sub-agent. So we use a skill to give Claude Code domain knowledge and to automate repeatable workflows like a command. Let me show you how to create one. All right, so here in Claude Code, there's been an update. So we are now at 226. To create a skill, there are two options. I could manually create a .claude folder, and inside that folder, I'll create a skills folder and then create my skill manually. And I can also just tell Claude to create the skill. So let's do that. So I'll just paste this prompt. So I'm trying to create a skill that generates a motivational quote when I invoke it. So let's go with allow all. All right, so it's created the skill. Let me show you. All right, so you can see the folder that it created. You can see the skill.md file. So this is what it created. And so now I'll invoke this skill like a command and you can see it in action. All right, so first I need to restart this section so that the skill can be loaded. All right, so if I type the name of the skill, you can see it's now showing up as a command. And so I'll just run it. And it generates a motivational quote. All right, let me show you from the help interface. You can see under custom commands, we now have motivational quotes. All right, so that's how to create a skill and a custom command. All right, so the next is a hook. So we use a hook to define actions that should be performed by Claude Code based on events that it emits. So let me show you some of those events. So if I run hooks, so you can see we have different events that we can create hooks for. There's a pre-tool use, which is emitted before tool execution. There's a post tool use, which is emitted after tool execution, and there are others. All right, so a common use case that I've seen for hooks is to run a command to format a file after Claude has edited the file. And so let's tell Claude to create one. So I'm just going to paste this prompt. I want to create a hook that uses prettier to format a file. So I'm just going to go with yes to all. All right, so it's asking me for the scope, so I'll just go with local. All right, so it's created a hook. Let me show you. So it added a settings.local.json file, and you can see the hook section right here. So it's listening for the post tool use event, and then if it's a write or an edit, then it runs this command. Right, it runs this command using prettier. All right, so that's how to create a hook. So let's create a subagent next. So a subagent is a dedicated worker that will define to perform specific task. A subagent can have its own context, it can have its own model, we can give it its own skills, and it can even run in an isolated work tree if needed. So to create a subagent, I'll just paste this prompt. I want a YouTube researcher subagent. So I'm just going to switch my permission mode to auto. Great. So it's done creating the agent. Let me show you what it looks like. So here you can see the agent folder, and then you have the YouTube researcher agent. So here you can see we have name. Let me close this entirely. All right, so you can see we have name, we have the description, we have the tools that it can use, and we have the model. So I can switch the model here to any of the model that I want. And I can even bring in isolation. If I want it to work in a work tree, I can just specify it here. And so I can tell Claude Code to use this agent when I need to do any YouTube research. All right, so let's use everything we've learned to build an application. All right, so this is the application that we are going to be building. It is simple to do application with a Kanban style UI. So for the front end, I'll be using Next.js, and ZO stand for state management. For the backend, I'll be using Supabase, and Claude Code will be able to connect to Supabase using the Supabase MCP server. And so let's start with installing Nextjs and setting up a project. All right, so on the Nextjs installation page, I'll just copy this command here to create a new Nextjs project. All right, so I'll come to my VS Code and I'll open the terminal and I'll paste the command. And because we're already inside this working directory, I will just use this name as the name of our project. So I'll use dot here, and I also want to use TypeScript. So I'll add that and I'll click enter. All right, so the project has been created. So next I'll add ZO stand. Great. All right, so let's go set up the Supabase project. All right, so here on Supabase, I'll create a new project. Let's give the project the same name. Let's create a password. I'll just enable this and I'll click on create new project. All right, so let's connect our front-end project. So here under framework, I'm using Nextjs for the front end. So I'll just copy this environment variable information, go to my VS Code, create a .env file, and I'll paste this. Next, I'll come to the MCP tab. I'm using Claude Code as my client. And so in these feature groups, I can select the feature that I want Claude Code to have access to through the MCP server. And so I just want the database. So I'm going to unselect this and just leave the database. Yeah, so we only have the database. So next, I'll copy this command down here to install the Supabase MCP. So I'll open my terminal and I'll paste this command and run it. All right, so it created the mcp.json file. So when I run Claude Code, it will detect this MCP server and register it. All right, so the next thing is to generate the specs for our project. And so I've created a few skills to do that. So if you go to this repo, you'll find a few skills that I've created. So for this project, I'll be using the start skill, the architect skill, and the feature skills. All right, so to generate specs, I usually start with this command. And so when I run the start command, Claude Code will ask me a bunch of clarifying questions, and then it will generate the product requirement document, the roadmap, and the decisions.md spec. And then I run the architect command. So I use this to capture the technical implementation details for the project. And so Claude Code will generate the ARCHITECTURE.md file and the standard.md file. So the standard.md file captures everything about our coding standards for the project. So the last command is the features command. So I use the features command to break up the PRD and the roadmap into micro user stories. So coding agents tend to generate a lot of files. With this micro user story approach, if you want to review the code, it won't be too many files to go through. All right, so let's install these skills. Over here, I'll just copy this command and I'll go to VS Code and I'll open the terminal. I'll paste the command and run it. All right, so I'm only interested in architect, features, and start. So I'll just select those. Click on enter. Yes. Claude Code. I want it for this project only. So I'll click on enter. Copy to all agents. Yes. All right, so it's done. And you can see inside the .claude directory, you can see it created the skills. All right, so now we'll start our Claude Code section and we'll start building. Alright, so Claude Code has detected an MCP server from our mcp.json file. So Supabase, I'll just click on use this MCP server. Alright, so you can see we are now at 227. There was an update, and so I had to quickly upgrade. Alright, so now let's complete the setup for our Supabase MCP server. So I'm just going to run MCP. We're already on Supabase and it needs authentication. So I'm going to click enter, authenticate. Alright, so authorize Claude Code. Alright, authentication is successful. Alright, so now let's confirm our skills. So you can see we have start in there and we have architect in there and we have features in there as well. So great. So let's run our first command, which is start, and I'll paste this. I need to bring in the image from our presentation as a reference. So I'll just copy this image as PNG and I'll paste the image in here. Now, Claude Code is going to ask me a bunch of clarifying questions and then create the necessary documents. So I'll submit my answers. All right, so the documents are created. So you can see the docs folder right here, and you can see all the documents in there. Now I want to run this architect command to capture the technical implementation details. All right, so I'm going to run architect and I'll paste this. All right, so our architect command is complete and you can see we have the architecture file here and you can see all the things that it did. So it knew we are going to be using Supabase, and so it installed Supabase and it created the Supabase migration and it ran the Supabase migration. So the reason why I was able to do all of this without my approval is because I have auto mode on. So I just allowed it to do whatever is necessary. All right, let me show you what it created on Supabase. So here on Supabase, if you go to database, you can see it created a tax table already. All right, so next we'll run the features command. So I'm just telling it to create micro user stories for the project. All right, so the user stories are ready. And if you go to the docs folder, you can see a features folder here, and you can see all the micro user stories that it created. All right, so what I usually like to do at this point is to tell Claude Code to divide them into sequential and parallel execution. So the user stories that can be executed sequentially will go sequentially. The ones that can be executed in parallel will spin up work trees and multiple Claude sections to work on them. All right, so let's clear this. All right, so I'll paste this prompt. All right, so I'm just telling Claude Code to group the user stories into parallel and sequential execution groups. All right, so 01, 02, 03 have already been completed. So we've scaffolded the project already. We've set up Supabase table and the table schema. And we'll set up the VTest tooling. And so I'll just go to 04 and I'll run 04 and 05 in parallel. Now I can just tell Claude to run them in parallel and Claude would handle everything. But I want to show you how to handle it manually in case you want to do that. All right, so I'll create a new terminal. I'm going to run the command Claude-W for worktree. So the same concept with git worktree. And so I'll just provide a name for my worktree. And so I'll just use 04. I'll use this. I'm going to copy that and paste it in here, 04. And then I want this Claude section to run in the background. So I'm just going to use -pg for background. And then the prompt that the section would run with. So I'll click on enter and you can see it's created a background task And if you check here in the Claude folder, you will see Claude has created a Worktree folder with that particular user story. So that was the name we provided for the Worktree. And so he copied everything from our main branch into the Worktree folder. And so now I'm going to create the next Worktree so we can have multiple sections in parallel. So the next is 05 because it's 04 and 05. So I'll just copy that and replace. So it's created a background task for this. So now I have two sections running in parallel. And if you check the Worktree folder, you can see now I have 04 and 05. So they now have the isolated environment to work in. All right, so this is where Claude Code agent view comes in handy. So let me show you. Let's go to this terminal and I'll open agent view. All right, so here on our agent view, you can see our two background sections. You can see both of them right here, and you can see they both need approval. So I'm going to open each of them and approve the request. After approving, I'll set it to auto mode so I won't have to bother about approval. So I'll just do that, and then I'll just go Shift Tab, leave it on auto mode. So I'll go back to the other one, which is this render board. I'll click on enter, approve it, switch it to auto mode. And so both of them are running in parallel and in auto mode. And so when they've completed their tasks, they'll move down to this completed section. All right, so all I'll do now is merge them back into the main branch from their individual work trees. So let me show you how to do that. So I'll go to this terminal and I'll just run git work tree list. And you can see we have our main branch and we have our work tree branches here. So these are the Worktree branches, and you can see we have locked on those Worktree branches. So this is Claude Code's safety mechanism to prevent the Worktrees from being deleted inadvertently. All right, so let's merge the Worktrees back into our main branch. So to merge them, I'll just run git merge, and I'll copy this. This is the Worktree name. I'll just run this. Great, so we've merged that. Let's merge the second one. All right, so the second one has a merge conflict. So let's see what the merge conflict is about. All right, so I'm just going to accept current, and I'll manually just set this to X and done. So I'll save that and then just continue with the merge. All right, so we've merged them. So the next thing is to unlock the Worktrees so we can delete them. So I'll just run git worktree list. All right, so git worktree unlock. And this is the name of this worktree. All right, so let's unlock the second one as well. All right, so now they are both unlocked. We can now delete them. So to delete them, I'll just run git worktree remove. So this removes the 05 one, this one. All right, so 05 is gone. So let's remove 04. So 04 is gone as well. So for the remaining user stories, I'm just going to tell Claude to work on them. And when it's done, we'll come back and validate what it did. All right, so Claude Code is done with the implementation. So it went through every user story and it's completed every user story. You can see everything is done. All right, so let's confirm that everything actually works. So I'm going to go to the terminal. I'm just going to run npm dev. All right, so we can open this in our browser and test the application. All right, so this is what it created, and I can see some things that can be improved. I wasn't really focused on design for this particular project. I was more focused on the functionality, so let's test that. So I'll create a record here. Then I'll just add the task. All right, so he added the task down here. Let's see if it's also persisted in our Supabase DB. So here in Supabase, I'll just go to table editor. And there you go. You can see the record is added to our DB. All right, let me test other functionality. Can I drag? Yeah, I can drag, but there's an issue with this. It's going in the background. I don't know if you can see that. So I can drag for the priority. All right, let me see if I can drag it to another section. So I'll drag it here. Okay, there's definitely an issue here. So you can see, so for the issue, I can just note it down, go to Claude and tell Claude about the issues and the changes that I wanted to make, or just use our feature command to create user stories for the issues. And then we can tell Claude to go through those user stories and fix whatever issues we've captured, and Claude will fix them. So that's all for the video. I hope you got value from it. Do like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.